Imagine waking not in a soft bed, but in a damp, dark hold, filled with the smell of sweat, rotting wood, and stale tobacco smoke. That's your bed, the ship's floor, often shared with rats, lice, and crewmates who haven't bathed in weeks. Morning doesn't begin with coffee or warm sunlight, but with the captain's sharp voice barking orders to man the deck. The sea wind stings your salt-crusted skin as your body aches from the night's labor hauling heavy ropes, raising sails and pumping water from a leaking hull. Food, you get two choices: worm-infested hardtack or salted meat so old you can tell if the stench is from the meat or the men eating it. There's rarely enough fresh water, every drop is precious, and most drink watered-down beer or rum. Ching, that's constant. Scabies and lice are part of life. You grow used to the burning sensation of sun-exposed, salt-worn skin. Even the smallest cuts can turn deadly with infection, and there's no doctor, just the ship's surgeon with a rusty saw and a bottle of liquor. And danger doesn't only come from the sea. It comes from within. Betrayal, mutiny. If the crew feels the captain is too greedy, or if loot seems unfairly divided, a bloody uprising can erupt at any moment. Trust is rare, and your life might end not at the enemy's blade, but by a friend's knife in the night. Too many, piracy sounds like freedom. But behind the skull flag and tales of gold lies a bitter truth of life marked by exhaustion, hunger, and fear that never truly fades. Picture this man: long, wild black hair, eyes like burning coals, and a thick beard twisted with slow-burning fuses. This was Edward Teach, known to the world as Blackbeard. Not just a name, but a living legend, a myth that breathed smoke and fire among storms and cannon fire. Yet behind the legend, Blackbeard captained a pirate ship for only 2 years. 2 short years that changed the history of the Caribbean and carved fear into the hearts of empires. It was 1717. In the chaotic aftermath of the War of Spanish Succession, the Caribbean had become a lawless sea. Blackbeard, a former English sailor, seized a captured French warship and renamed it Queen Anne's Revenge, armed with 40 cannons and over 300 men. He was no longer just a pirate. He was a storm incarnate, feared by every merchant and small navy. But Blackbeard wasn't just a savage raider. He was a maestro of fear. Lit fuses in his beard so smoke would rise from his face as he charged enemy ships. He rarely needed violence, if everyone was already too afraid to resist. He crafted a devil's image, not for cruelty, but for control. For 2 years, he blockaded ports, extorted towns, and divided loot with a ruthless but measured hand. Amid chaos, he established a form of pirate order, pirate law where the crew's vote could seal their captain's fate. But the world couldn't let him live forever. In 1718, English Lieutenant Robert Maynard cornered him off the coast of Carolina. In a brutal close-quarters battle, Blackbeard reportedly endured more than 20 gunshots and blade wounds. Even in death, he stood, fighting, as if he refused to bow to the world he had dared to defy. His head was cut off and hung from the ship's mast as a warning that even legends can drown. But his legacy remained. In just 2 years, he reshaped piracy. He created the modern pirate image we know today. Terrifying, brilliant, and unstoppable. And perhaps, on a quiet night at sea, the creak of an old ship's deck still echoes with Blackbeard's boots, still hunting his next black flag. Imagine an island that doesn't exist on any map. Stretch of green land surrounded by silvery blue sea, silent from human voices yet filled with the remnants of secrets. A rotting dock on the edge of white sand. A moss-covered stone door hidden behind creeping vines. Here we step gently into a world pirates abandoned long ago. The Caribbean wasn't just a place for ship battles. It was also home to dozens of nameless islands once used as hideouts, treasure caches, or even personal fortresses by captains hoping to stay out of the Empire's gaze. One real example surfaced in 2008 when a team of archaeologists explored a small island off the coast of Hispaniola. There, they uncovered a half-buried stone structure resembling a storage bunker. Inside, sealed clay jars, iron nails, small cannonballs, and fragments of rum bottles. No official historical record mentioned this place. It was as if it had been intentionally erased. Many pirates didn't trust banks or port towns. They hid their wealth themselves. Some buried it in sand. Others carved secret caves or rooms beneath wooden huts. And a few, the more paranoid ones, left behind false maps, traps, and riddles to keep their treasure hidden for centuries. Such a map was discovered in Jamaica, written on deer hide, filled with strange symbols and cryptic verses. Historians still debate whether it's a true clue or an elaborate hoax. But pirate archaeology is never certain. You don't always know if you're hunting for gold or chasing the shadow of legend. What's fascinating is how cleverly these fortresses were built. Vent shafts to mask smoke, underground escape routes, and chambers that only opened at certain tides. Pirates may have looked rough, but many were skilled engineers and survivalists. Today, modern researchers and treasure hunters attempt to reconstruct these ancient maps using satellite imagery and drones. Forests that once veiled secrets are slowly revealing themselves, showing unnatural geometric patterns in the terrain human traces from long ago. And in the stillness of these islands, we can only imagine the clink of an anchor lowered at night, a flickering torch in a cavern, and the soft breath of a pirate, perhaps hiding the last piece of his fading world. Picture yourself in a Victorian-style meeting room, thick carpets, crystal chandeliers, and well-dressed men with tall hats and curled mustaches discussing not weddings, not politics, but pirate treasure buried somewhere beneath the Caribbean Sea. The world of piracy, often painted as wild and lawless, frequently intersected with the world of elites. Many English nobles and upper-class businessmen of the 17th and 18th centuries quietly or even publicly funded pirate expeditions in hopes of claiming a share of the plunder. The system was often legal. The British government issued something called a letter of marque. It's a kind of official license allowing a ship captain to attack and loot enemy vessels. These captains were not called pirates, but privators, legal raiders working on behalf of the crown. Through this arrangement, aristocratic investors could place their money into a higher-risk sea venture. They provided the ships, weapons, even supplies. If successful, the spoils were split among the crew, ship owners, and financiers. If it failed, well, that was business. Court documents from 1710 showed that some English lords even sued ship captains for not delivering their promised share of stolen gold. Yes, even in the world of pirates, contracts and legal battles existed for those with influence. But not all aristocratic involvement was behind the scenes. Some were obsessed with legends and clues. Lord Pembroke, for instance, kept an entire room of old maps, compasses, and artifacts claimed to be from pirate ships. He funded private expeditions to find the wreck of Blackbeard not for profit, but for prestige. Treasure hunting never truly ceased. In the 19th century, the search became more scientific. Aristocrats began collaborating with scholars using early diving technology and ancient navigation logs. Some even formed exclusive clubs for gentlemen treasure hunters, where they discussed secret coordinates or theories about lost islands. In a quiet irony, much of the treasure once stolen from kingdoms is now pursued by those same kingdoms' descendants. And perhaps, in the stillness of an old reading room in London, an aging lord carefully flips through a pirate captain's journal with trembling hands, hoping to find one last clue about gold, about a lost ship, or simply about a story that refuses to end. And now, imagine the waves beginning to settle. The night wind gently brushes against the tattered sails. The last torch on deck flickers out, snuffed by a soft breeze, most as if the ocean itself wishes to keep its long-drowned secrets. From the salt-crusted pain of pirate life to the brief terror of Blackbeard to the ruins of silent islands, and the quiet ambitions of English Lord Zit,'s all part of a mosaic that shapes a history never truly still. We often imagine the past as a stage of constant action. But between the waves and the pauses in time, there's a rhythm of life that always persisted. The steps on wooden decks, the sigh of the sea against the hull, the whisper of strategy in candlelight. And that is where the quiet beauty of history hides. Not in the shouts of victory, but in the exhaustion of a sailor staring at stars, searching for direction. Not in the boom of cannons, but in a trembling hand writing journal entries in a cramped space, hoping someone someday might read them. Perhaps tonight, you've sailed farther than you realized. And that's perfectly fine. Because here, in this calming stillness, you have become part of a story long past. And now, you may rest too. Good night. Sleep peacefully. The sea is calm again.